Venezuelan authorities reported 525 new coronavirus cases this Monday, the majority locally transmitted. There are warnings of possible flash floods in the north of Mexico this Monday as Tropical Depression Hannah continues to hit the area. Former Ivorian President Henri Bederi has announced he's standing for the opposition Democratic Party in the October presidential elections. From the headquarters of Telesur English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South, and I'm Katrina Goss. The official also informed of the death of 4 more COVID-19 patients in the last 24 hours. Bolivian social and political organizations continue to denounce the Electoral Court's decision to postpone the date of the general elections. They're calling on the Supreme Electoral Tribunal to comply with the previous agreement that set September 6 as the date for the country's general elections. Popular and indigenous organizations are preparing to hold protests this week to add to the pressure. Despite this scenario, the president of the Electoral Tribunal, Salvador Romero, has reiterated that October 18th is now the definitive date for the vote. The elections in Bolivia have been postponed 3 times because of the pandemic, as the de facto authorities work to tighten and extend their grip on power. The Movement Towards Socialism Party has announced that its leaders are being persecuted in order to prevent their participation in the vote. And inmates at Bolivia's San Sebastian prison in the western city of Cochabamba protested this Monday over a lack of coronavirus safety measures. The prisoners are demanding government medical assistance given the rapid spread of COVID-19 across the country. The protesters called on authorities to intervene as the number of cases rises in Cochabamba, stressing that they have no access to doctors or medicines. Bolivia has officially reported more than 2,500 COVID-19 deaths and over 69,000 cases among its population of 11 million.
Because I had been wanting to come for a long time and I couldn't. The church wasn't open, and now I was very pleased to be able to visit the Blessed Sacrament to talk to him.
We want medical teams. We know there are 3 deaths among us and other people deceased in the police. But until today, we have not received information about the death of the other inmates.
According to a report published by an investigative journalism consortium, the Brazilian group JBS, the largest meat processing company in the world, has covered up its sales of cattle from farms involved in illegal deforestation of the Amazon. The London-based Bureau of Investigative Journalism, British newspaper The Guardian, and Brazilian journalism group Reporter Brasil accused JBS in the joint report of laundering cattle from ranches blacklisted for destroying the Amazon rainforest by transferring them to a clean and legal farm that exports to Europe, as shown in photos posted on Facebook. The report marks at least the 5th time in just over a year that the company, which exports around the world, has been accused of the practice of cattle laundering. A Chilean palliative care unit in Santiago, where at least 60 COVID-19 patients have died, has found ways to make sure its patients are not dying alone and enjoy a bit of comfort and dignity in their last hours. The initiatives include filling the room with their favourite music, holding their hands, and if possible, inviting a family member to be by their side.
I have always liked palliative care because more than the procedure, it's all about love and being there. We like that area, and although it has been a tough experience, it has also been very beautiful. They breathe faster, their pulse beats faster, and patients who had no movement at all are moving. So this confirms to us that by the day that hearing is the last sense that they lost before death, and that is why we also convey to the families to assurance that the patients will receive the message. We had patients who were musicians and patients who were from the country, who like to sing country songs all the time. We look for songs from the countryside on YouTube, we play those songs for them, and the patients will relax, open their eyes, move their hands, and after that they will leave.
When the novel coronavirus closed Guatemala's schools in mid-March, teacher Gerardo Ixcoy invested his savings in a second-hand tricycle. He transformed the tricycle into a mobile classroom with plastic sheets to protect against virus transmission, a whiteboard and a small solar panel which powers the audio player he uses for some of the lessons he teaches. Each day, the 27-year-old pedals among the cornfields of Santa Cruz del Quiche to offer individual classes to his 6th grade students. The initiative was born of necessity as the literacy in the area is about 42% and only about 30% of homes have internet access.
I wanted to help them because they lack technological tools, such as computers, printers, internet. That's where the idea to take the knowledge to their doors comes from, and watching out for COVID-19, of course. Things have changed a lot because now I'm not receiving normal classes. Teacher Lalito only comes for a little while to teach me, but I learn a lot. When they saw me pedaling in, at first they laughed, but they soon realized I was helping them. And parents were also very pleased. I believe they are my engine, the fuel to keep on pedaling to help them learn. In the same way, they have taught me a lot. They are teaching me how to teach.
Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador announced that his government is considering 2 offers to buy the presidential plane, which he says is an example of the excesses that were committed under previous administrations. The plane will be sold outright, and the president noted there are now 2 bidders, one of whom is offering a mix of cash and medical equipment for the jet. That buyer has already put down a $1 million deposit and signed an initial contract, but the president explained that last week another all-cash offer emerged. The Mexican government estimates that the plane is worth $120 million. It was purchased in 2012 for about $200 million.
There are already these possible buyers, and that money, and also what is obtained through the raffle, is for public health. This plan is an example of the excesses that were committed. The purpose of holding this press conference with the airliner is to make known to the people of Mexico how the country was poorly governed, how there were luxuries in the government throughout the neoliberal period.
And we'll be right back after this short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Streets in the northern Mexican city of Monterrey were flooded by heavy rains unleashed by Tropical Depression Hanna on Sunday. The U.S. National Hurricane Center warned that continued rains could trigger flash flooding and mudslides in the northern states of the country this Monday. Hanna became the first hurricane of the North Atlantic hurricane season before being downgraded to a tropical storm on Sunday. Hanna made landfall in Texas late on Saturday to become the first Atlantic hurricane to hit the U.S. state in the month of July since Dolly in 2008, before moving on to Mexico. And this Monday, police and soldiers worked to clean up roadblocks and debris from the streets in the state of Nuevo León in northeastern Mexico after Tropical Depression Hanna brought heavy rain and storm surges. A search continues for an 11-year-old boy who is believed to have fallen into a stream in Monterrey and been dragged away by the current. And Mexico City's Roman Catholic churches, including its main cathedral, began celebrating Mass again on Sunday after 3 months of pandemic lockdown. Federal authorities left the decision on whether places of worship could open to state governments and city councils. Mexico has now topped 390,000 confirmed coronavirus cases and has seen more than 43,000 deaths. Congregations have already gathered for Mass in some parts of the country outside the capital, with specific measures in place. In other areas, religious services continue to be held virtually. Churches that do open must implement measures such as the use of face masks, while ceremonies must not last longer than half an hour, and church occupancy should not exceed 20%.
Joy to be able to receive our faithful and to be with them at this time when it has been so hard for them not to participate in the celebrations.
I felt very happy because I had been wanting to come for a long time and I couldn't. The church wasn't open, and now I was very pleased to be able to visit the Blessed Sacrament to talk to him.
Demonstrators took part in a protest in the Costa Rican capital San Jose this Monday against the austerity policies promoted by the government in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic.
We defend the agricultural sector. We want this government to leave the workers, the working people alone, to stop taking away their rights, to respect social guarantees.
Our people are unemployed, not because they do not want to work, but simply because this government does not know how to rule. They are not capable to govern Costa Rica.
This Monday, the representative of the Pan American Health Organization and the WHO to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean commended the region on its efforts to address the impact of COVID-19, while noting that everyone has a role to play in the fight against the pandemic.
The pandemic continues to accelerate with over 15 million people and 15 million persons and cases with 630,000 deaths reported to the WHO globally. The pandemic has already changed the way we live our lives. Part of adjusting to the new normal is finding ways to live our lives safely. That's what the Director General mentioned. Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean countries have shown that with sustained political leadership and action backed by community and people's support, the COVID-19 can be suppressed no matter the stage and transmission phase. As you have illustrated in many global fora, moral leadership, prioritizing of vulnerable population, whole of government and whole of society approach are among the key principles to fight this virus. Everyone has a role to play in fighting this epidemic.
Hundreds of demonstrators took to the streets in Italy on Monday to urge the government to stop funding the Libyan Coast Guard, which they claim commits torture and rape in Libyan migrant detention centres.
2 months ago, we had a verdict of the Tribunal of Messina that has assessed that inside the migrant detention centers in Libya, tortures are taking place. This verdict comes after months' testimonies, journalist reports and NGOs' investigations. Therefore, continuing funding and refunding the Libyan Coast Guard means to become accomplices in severe violations of human rights.
When the so-called Coastal Guard, the Libyan Coastal Guard, takes some of them, they are brought back in what are not prison, frankly speaking, but are terrible lagers, and now all the proven are there, the proofs are there that they are normally tortured, raped.
Restaurant and cafe owners held a 1-hour strike in Kosovo on Monday to protest against what they claim is a lack of support from the government, while noting a drastic reduction in their income due to COVID-19 restrictions across the country.
We expect conditions for all business and gastronomy to improve. We expect the government to give grants for salaries of employees, to help us with 60% of rents, the postponements of the loans and to lower value-added tax. We basically want our rights like all the rest of the world. So far, we have had very little support from the government. We have been closed for 3 months due to the pandemic, and the business had no income apart from the 170 euros that the government gave for the employees. We didn't get any help for the rent. Now we are open, but we need to close at 9 p.m. These new measures are okay, but still they have an impact on us since we are a night bar and we cannot work full capacity.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Monday officially opened 3 new COVID-19 testing facilities in New Delhi, Mumbai and Kolkata. According to his office, each testing facility is capable of analysing as many as 10,000 tests a day. Speaking via video conference, Modi claimed India had taken the right decisions at the right time during the pandemic and was in a controlled situation compared to other countries. India's Chief Medical Research Agency says the country tested over 500,000 samples for COVID-19 on Sunday. The almost 50,000 new cases reported on Monday brought India's nationwide tally to beyond 1.4 million, representing the world's third highest after the United States and Brazil.
We've been fighting with the coronavirus pandemic bravely. Today, we are launching a high-tech testing facility. The efforts of West Bengal, Maharashtra and Uttar Pradesh will be further strengthened in their fight against the corona pandemic. Friends, the right decision we're taking at the right time has resulted in our country being in a far controlled situation compared to other countries. The rate of deaths are far lower in our country compared to many big countries. In January, we had just 1 center for corona testing, and today 1 2,300 labs are working around the country. Today in India, we're conducting more than 500,000 tests a day, and efforts are on to take the testing ability to 1 million a day in the next few weeks.
And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us. From the south. Former Ivorian President Henri Konan-Bedie was selected as the candidate of the opposition Democratic Party of Côte d'Ivoire for the 2020 presidential election this Monday. The announcement was made by the former president himself, who noted he was elected with 99.7% of the vote following a party convention. Konan-Bedie served as president of Ivory Coast from 1993 until 1999 when he was ousted in a coup. Meanwhile, the ruling RHDP party of current President Alassane Ouattara has not yet nominated an alternative presidential candidate following the death of Prime Minister Amadou Gon Coulibaly earlier this month. The presidential elections are set to take place on October 31st.
These results show a turnout of 94.8% and my election with a score of 99.70% of the votes cast, a unique plebiscite. The joy that fills me this day is immense. I feel happy and proud to have been elected as the PDCI-RDA candidate in the presidential election of October 31, 2020.
Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta announced a reimposition of COVID-19 restrictions, including a ban on alcohol sales and a nationwide curfew this Monday.
That there shall be no sale of alcoholic beverages or drinks in each day at midnight for the next 30 days. That all bars shall remain closed.
And the Kenyan president also noted that the COVID-19 death toll has reached 280, stressing that the country is at war with an invisible enemy.
We are going to suffer a catastrophe. The harsh reality, my friends, is that we are at war. At war with an invisible enemy who is relentless in their desire for destruction.
Tanzanian opposition leader and presidential hopeful Tundu Lissu arrived back in the country this Monday to contest the elections to be held on October 28th. Hundreds of Lissu's supporters gathered at the international airport in the city of Dar es Salaam to welcome him home from exile. The opposition figure has been a hardliner against Tanzanian President John Magufuli, who has served in the post since 2015. Following an assassination attempt in 2017, in which he was shot 16 times, Lissu went into exile in Kenya and then travelled to Belgium to undergo medical treatment. He's called on the main opposition party, Chadema, or the Party for Democracy and Progress, to endorse him as its presidential candidate.
I have a lot of blood mixtures for Rio, with the blood I got from my parents, and there is a blood for anonymous Tanzanians after I was shot in Dodoma on the 7th of September 2017. Then there is the blood of anonymous Kenyans. One of my doctors told me that they have added to me blood 3 times my body weight. That is the blood of Kenyans on top of the 17 operations, along with the blood of bears.
More than 80,000 cases of COVID-19 have now been reported across the African continent. According to information from the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the continent has reported a COVID-19 death toll of over 17,000. South Africa, Egypt, Nigeria, Ghana, Algeria and Morocco remain the worst-hit nations. Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari tweeted a congratulatory message to mark the 2020 National Diaspora Day this Monday.
Congratulate Nigerians in diaspora as we celebrate the National Diaspora Day 2020. As you are aware, this date, July 25th of every year, has been set aside by the federal government of Nigeria to A, celebrate Nigerians in diaspora, estimated to be over 17 million in the Americas, Europe, Asia, Oceania, and Africa.
Iraqi Prime Minister Mustafa al-Kadhimi on Monday ordered an investigation into the death of 2 demonstrators following violent clashes with security forces in the capital, Baghdad.
Youths had a legitimate right to protest yesterday. Security forces are not permitted to fire a single bullet against our brothers, the demonstrators. We have opened an investigation into all that happened yesterday in Tahrir Square, and I asked the results to be in front of me within 72 hours.
And we've come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. For Telesur English, I'm Katrina Goss, and thank you for watching.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Sean todos muy bienvenidos a Vidas.